Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Ayleen, and this is Medicine Walk. And for those of you who are listening in on Blog Talk Radio, this is Healing House Radio. So, we're going to continue our conversation from yesterday, where we talked about dealing with, empathically with people who are experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder. And yesterday it was from the perspective of the empath dealing with the person who is in that situation. Today we're going to talk about when the person who has the post-traumatic stress is the empath themselves. And honestly, I believe that in many ways empaths are more prone to experience this because of the fact that they pick up the emotions of others. And, I've said before that I don't really consider empathy limited to emotions, but, for the purposes of this discussion, we're going to focus on the emotion aspect. And when you have someone who both connects with, not just with the people who think well of them, but with the people who are, directing ill intent or ill action towards them, we still create a resonance. And that can be especially wounding for people who are facing abuse, who resonate with the person who is directing that abuse towards them. Or the traumatizing experience, the energy of the traumatizing experience becomes imprinted on the empath in, I think, a fundamentally deeper way than on most people. So, okay, Luna, you can clean your claws on the couch, not on me. So, the idea that you could have somebody who is, really being unkind to someone to the level that it creates that level of stress, then you have a situation where basically it's almost like a, Stockholm Syndrome type of thing, where the person who's being abused, will at some point resonate with the abuser. And, this is seen often with children, who will cling to an abusive parent. And in some ways, our empathy can create that. And thus we internalize experiences on a bit of a deeper level than, say, most. So when you are in a situation where you are empathizing with a situation on such a deep level that it becomes part of who you are, post-traumatic stress is no joke. And it is not just an issue of, just cheer up, or try not to think about it, or you need to forgive. It's not that easy. And if you are struggling with PTSD, I am so sorry. And I hope that you are getting help, because there is help available. We have a tendency as empaths to think we can handle it. We deal with the emotions of others all the time. We can handle our own. And we have a tendency to, probably more than most, to override what's going on with us to take care of somebody else. And it is it's almost comical the way, and if nothing else, it is the height of irony, that we would be the first person to tell somebody else, well, you really need to take care of yourself. You need to nurture yourself. You need to, be there for you. And that's usually the last thing an empath will do, because by instinct, we take care of other people. We put other people first, because the empathy drives us to correct. If they're not happy, I can't be happy, so I am going to make them happy. They are going to be balanced. They are going to be okay, because otherwise I can't manage this. So when that person is us, when we're the ones who need help, when we're the ones who, need someone to be there for us, we have a very difficult time letting people in. We have a very difficult time. And, with most people would probably think, well, if you connect and you resonate with people, obviously, you've got a lot of people who are close to you. That is surprisingly rare. Most empaths I know have, they know a lot of people and they have, a lot of friends. And there's only maybe a few people that they really connect with, that they really let in close to them. I always say that you always know an empath because usually if somebody starts talking about them and getting into, what's going on inside of them, often we will turn it around. We will use our empathy to find something that is in that other person. And it's like, oh, yeah, well, I'm going through that. And, I'm going through this. I'll bet you know what that feels like. And immediately the other person will start talking about themselves, which, means that we're not the subject of conversation. It can also mean that when an empath is needing to open up to somebody, there is that feeling of, if you're telling somebody something deep and that's very sensitive for you, if you sense their judgment, that door gets closed. And that's why empaths usually have like just a few people who they really, really trust, who can hold that space, who they will not feel judged by, because there is like nothing worse than being empathic, being able to perceive what somebody else is feeling. And as you're talking to them, you can feel them either disengaging or judging you. And you could almost hear that as soon as you stop talking, they're going to start telling you, it's like, well, you know what your problem is. Yeah, I do. And I need to work this out for myself. And it really does make us withdraw. And when empaths have been traumatized, it is that much more difficult because that sense of trust in someone has been deeply damaged. We've been hurt. And when you've been traumatized by someone, and the thing is, it's that trauma is trauma. And it may not be something that if you experienced it and you experienced it as a traumatic experience, and somebody else says, well, that's not so bad, they don't understand why it created trauma for you. And that's, that minimizing. It's like, well, that wasn't so bad, and da-da-da-da. And I knew somebody says, well, at least nobody put you against a wall and shot you. And it's like, okay, is that the bar we're at? Is that where the bar is? So, when you feel that building up in someone, yeah, it is hard to reach out. It is hard to trust. It is hard, when you don't feel understood or that your traumatic experience is devalued. And nobody should experience that ever. Ever. It's not okay. I don't care what the trauma is. It doesn't have to be traumatic for me to understand that it was traumatic for you. And empathically, being able to go, wow, this person is really hurting over this, getting out of the mind that, well, why did this hurt them? It doesn't matter why it hurt them, why it was traumatizing. What matters is it was traumatizing to them. And by being able to just sit with someone, to let them talk about it, to let them express themselves, because as they express themselves, they're able to kind of put the pieces together. Well, that works both ways. We need to talk about what we're going through and not be afraid of what somebody else is going to think of us. And because what somebody else thinks of us reflects, it can become what we perceive about ourselves. If we don't have a handle on that, that's why it's so important to have a handle on our empathy. Because if someone else's judgment affects us so much that we don't feel we can talk about what's bothering us, if we can't share and unburden ourselves on those things that may be deeply embarrassing, maybe, very traumatic, that, just you don't want to talk about it, but you need to. If we cannot, hold it down and say, okay, I know this is the feeling, but I still need to talk about this. I still need to open up about this. We need to manage our empathy so that we are not afraid to do that. And we need to be able to create a support system of people who can understand both that, the trauma and how it feels to have that, going on inside of you as someone who is sensitive to the energies of others. So it is crucial, absolutely crucial, if you are someone who is dealing with PTSD, understand that what's going on around you is intensifying it. If you're having a harder time holding it together, it is because of what's going on around you. And it is not weak to admit that you're having a really hard time, because empathically we radiate. We transmit as well as we receive. And often people will notice that something is not okay with an empath because, just the entire room has this heaviness, especially if an empath is in that room and they're unhappy. So consider that even though it may feel really, really hard and really, really scary, you need to talk to someone. You can be careful about who you talk to. You can choose who you talk to, who you trust. But every empath needs somebody who they can talk through their stuff with, somebody who's safe. I'm blessed to know so many people who care about me and love me, and who are able to understand that there are times when I need to be the one to talk and to seek help, because usually I'm the one who helps. I'm the one who makes things okay. And, especially, over the last few years, I have found that I need to be able to express myself, and they want to hold that space for me. So there are a few people who I trust on that level. And every empath needs their support team. Every empath needs those people. And we need to trust them enough that if they say, hey, you need to get some help, you need to talk to someone professionally, that we don't slam the door on them. Because that feels unsafe. That feels vulnerable. It's like, okay, I'll talk to you, but I'm not talking to anybody else. We need to be able to keep that doorway open, because what we feel, being affected by what is going on in the world, can take us to a very bad place that we will have a very hard time climbing out of. So if you notice that the trauma that you have experienced is really coming up for you right now, it's because we're in a traumatizing field. And the things we see and the things we hear and, and just the general environment is just so heavy and so hard that it can make it very, very, very difficult to be able to ground and to keep our balance. How do you work it? Use whatever you use to ground. Just go into your grounded place. Just disconnect from what's going on periodically. Just, shut off the TV, listen to some music, whatever, and don't engage it. And if you are dealing with post-traumatic stress and you haven't gotten help for it, if you have gotten help for it, tap into that source again. Say, hey, I'm going through a tough time. I'm going through a hard time here. If you haven't, please, depending on the source of your, what the traumatizing factor was, there is somebody who understands, who can help you professionally. There are support groups. There are forums. If you don't want to go, go anywhere yourself, and, if you're in lockdown or whatever, there are tons of forums. You need to be able to tap into that. Because just because we're empathic and, kind of like superheroes doesn't mean we can do it alone. We were never meant to do it alone. If there's anything true about an empath, is that we are never truly alone. And support is there. And your wounding will only be magnified and intensified by what's going on around you if you don't learn to separate it. And often that comes with getting help. You need to find help. And please, if you don't have anybody else to talk to, contact me. And I will see if I can find somebody who can be able to help you. And I will listen to you. You can reach me through, you can follow me on Twitter and message me through that. You can reach me through my Facebook group, Medicine Walk with Dr. Ayleen. My email address is in the description. If something's going on and you need help, please reach out. But I'd be willing to bet dollars to donuts that there are some people around you who love you, who know that you are sensitive to energies, who, maybe they don't call it that, but they realize when you're in pain. Let them help you. Figure out which ones that you believe can hold this and talk to somebody. None of us do this alone. We can't. So please, reach out. The help is there. And it may be that, this whole thing is about people having to face those hard places, those scary places, so that they can finally be brought to the surface to heal. So don't be so afraid to open up just because you know or believe that you'll feel judgment from the person who you're sharing it with. Yes, that is a risk, but the benefits far outweigh it. So consider that. Think of the possibility of not having to carry that alone. If you're hurting over what's going on, it's okay. You can get help. So, thank you for joining me. I really hope this helped. And please, if there's any questions, comments, concerns, or experiences you'd like to share, please post them in the comments section. Or contact me, and we can chat about it. And if you like this video, please press like. If the channel resonates with you, please consider subscribing. And if I can help you in any way, I want to. I believe in you. You can do this. And I don't care if I've never met you. I still believe in you. So again, thank you for joining me. And as always, I wish you balance, and I wish you blessings from my heart to yours. Love you. And I don't have to have met you to do that. And take care. Bye.